Hi, Henry. So I want to give you a little bit of background on this problem, and then I'll kind of give you what the challenge is. Um, so before we look at what's on this page here, when I switch, I'm going to look at my camera. All right. So this is a cube, which you've seen before, I'm sure. And I'm not sure if you would have covered this part in second grade yet, but if you took a cube and you here's my cube again. If you unwrap it, if you unfold the cube, we call this a net. And so you can kind of unfold a cube and you just like take a layer off here, a layer off there, and unfold it out. We call this a net. So if you have a three-dimensional cube and you unwrap it like this, unwrap it, you get a two-dimensional net because there's no more height anymore with the paper. It's just nice and flat. This is not the only way that you could unwrap a cube, though. This is one way. This is one net. But also, and here's my cube, could also unwrap and look like this. So there's more than one way. They're very similar, but more than one way to unwrap this three-dimensional cube into a two-dimensional net. There's, in fact, I think there's like 6 or 11, or I forget how many. I want to say 11. There's 11 ways that you can do it. And one thing about the nets, these flat unwrappings, is, I'm going to use this one for now. If you take the net and you trace it onto a piece of paper, like that, and you just kind of keep tracing it, what ends up happening is that you can fill up the entire piece of paper without leaving any gaps. So I can keep tracing that over and over and over again, and it fills in this piece of paper. We call that tessellating the plane. But the idea is that if you take one of these nets and you trace it on a piece of paper, it can fill up the whole piece of paper without leaving any gaps. And it doesn't matter which shape I use. I could have used this T-shape one, and I could have done the same thing. Could have filled up the entire plane. Okay, so that's the background. So when I talk about nets, and I talk about tessellating or filling up the whole space without leaving any gaps, that's kind of what I mean. The new problem in math, and this isn't just like at the high school or anything, this is for the whole world. Nobody's ever thought to ask this question before. The question is, instead of taking a three-dimensional cube and unwrapping it into 2 dimensions, what if we took a 4-dimensional cube and unwrapped it? Now, don't try to think about what a 4-dimensional cube would look like. Our brains are just not designed to do that. I cannot imagine what that would look like. Nobody can. But if you had a 4-dimensional cube and you unwrapped it, instead of going from 3D down to 2D, you would go from 4D down to 3D. And this is what a 4-dimensional cube unwrapped would look like. Kind of weird. Don't try and put it back together in your head either, because I don't think we could do it. What ends up happening is that if you unwrap a 4-dimensional cube, a hypercube, you end up with 8 of these 3-dimensional cubes. So this is one way to unwrap it. Kind of like with the other nets, there's more than one way to do it. This is just one way to unwrap the hypercube. And the question that mathematicians are trying to figure out is, do these fill up space without leaving any gaps? Can we tessellate just like I did here? Can I piece these together and leave no gaps? So with this one, I already worked on this one. So what I did is I made a couple of them. So here's, you can kind of see I took my unwrapping. And for this one, what I ended up having to do is I couldn't put them together just one right next to the other. It would leave too much of a gap, too much of a space. So I ended up having to flip it over and put it together So I got this one flipped over, and then there's another one here, and then I flipped it over, and there's another one here. And that pattern would just continue. So there'd be another one here, and so on. And there are some gaps. There's these two little holes, and there will be more. If I put another one here, there'd be another little hole there. But in 3D, in three-dimensional space, we're not just going on a flat, like along on a flat thing like this. We also have to build up. So if I take, here we go, here's my pieces put together, and there's those holes. If I take another layer and I put it on here, what ends up happening is those holes are filled in. I don't know if you can see that very well with the way I did it. I'll try and take it apart again without breaking it. Here we go. So you can see there's a hole there where my finger is, and there's this bump here, this one that sticks out the end. It goes right into that hole. So this one does tessellate. It does fill in all the gaps, and you can keep on going. There'd be another one that would go here and kind of fill in that hole. And so this one does tessellate. It fills in. I can do layers, and there's no gaps. There's no holes that are created. So that's the idea. That's what we're trying to do. There are 261 ways to unwrap a hypercube into a thing like this, into a 3D net. So I've picked one, just picked one for you to try. This one has never been proven. It's not because it's hard, it's because nobody's ever tried it. This is a brand new problem. Nobody's ever thought to ask this question. And that's what this website that I had up, I'm going to pull it up again, is about. It's called Which Hypercube Unfoldings Tile Space. So which ones work? And you can see some of them have been solved. Random people, Samuel Levis, these are just random people on the internet who have gone, hey, I can give this a try. But some of them haven't been solved yet. And it's because nobody's tried that one yet. So here's what I want you to do. I've got one here that I'm going to ask you to try. Say hi to Mrs. Gustafson.
Who's that?
Emery. Or it will be. Emery.
Oh, you're Emery.
Mm-hmm. So here's the one I want you to try, Emery. It's 4 and 4, like this. So you put them together. I would recommend putting, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 together. So I've got like 2 here. And what I want you to try and do is see if you can't piece them together. You might be able to put them together like this. You might have to flip them. But can you piece them together so they all lay flat and there's no gaps? And then once you've made them all lay flat, can you put another layer on top so it fits in snugly and there's no gaps? So you put a few of them together, 6 to 8 maybe. You can do more, but at least 6 to 8, and try and snap them together and see if you can make them all lay out nice and flat. And then can you put another layer on top of that without any gaps? If you can do it, take a picture of it or have your mom take a picture of it, either one, and send it to me. And I'll post it on this website. So I'll find the one that I picked out for you. I forget which one it is. There's lots of them. And I'll post that and say, Emery got this one, and somebody will check it, and we'll see how it goes. So that's your challenge. That's your challenge if you choose to accept it, is put a couple of these together, 4 and 4, like that. See if you can snap them together and make it so it doesn't fill up, or it doesn't leave any gaps. All right, good luck. Let me know if you got any questions.